Welcome, Coursera and ET Studios presents Generative AI and the next level of personalized education. Welcome to what promises to be a scintillating discussion. In today's rapidly changing world, organizations must continuously adapt and innovate to stay competitive. By fostering a culture of learning, organizations can empower employees to develop new skills, embrace change, and drive growth, ensuring long-term success in a dynamic and evolving landscape. We have an exciting panel lined up today. I'm your host Shilpa Ratnam, and it's my honor to introduce the panelists for today. John Matthew, Global HR and OD Browser Stack. Hello and welcome, John.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ranjana Singh, Director HR Zorient. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. And we have Pushkar Kelkar, Regional Director for Enterprise Business, Coursera. Hello and welcome, Pushkar.
Hello, thank you.
Hi. And Manisha Kelkar, CHRO, Nuvoco Vistas Corporation Limited. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
And we have Juveri Mukherjee, Global HR Head, Orion Pro. Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
Hi. Also, let me state that this is going to be a very free-flowing discussion. Please feel free to come in at any point with any remarks or comments that you have at any juncture. Now, my first question is, how has learning evolved in the last few years with the evolving business environment, hybrid way of working, and opening skills priorities? Who would like to take it up first?
So I'd like to take that up. The last few years saw a lot of change in the overall way we have been working, and learning was a lot more physical, right? And when we moved virtual, of course, everything moved virtual, and eventually learning, of course, had to move virtual. And I think the greatest advantage that we were able to see in the virtual learning mode was to be able to accommodate a lot more people in our learning environment. Our organization is located at 7 locations across India, and also we're a global organization. We also have US, UK, other geographies. We could see the advantage of including a lot of our workforce into our learning initiatives, which was a little difficult before. So I think that we saw that as an advantage. The entire learning mode going virtual was a great advantage that we were able to encompass in all our learning related initiatives. Also, a wide group or a wide range of audience could take advantage of the offerings that we had, which was limited when we had a physical working environment. So I think a plethora of opportunities opened up in the learning space in terms of it going hybrid, in terms of it being available to a wider audience, and also I think the boundaries of time also were opened up in a much better way than what we had before. So agility in terms of learning that we were able to offer, the advantages in terms of time and space that we were able to offer, personalized learning again that we were able to offer on time, or at my free will. When I want, I can learn. But some of the advantages I think that we saw in the virtual world, and we moving hybrid in the last few years. So for me, that's how I think learning moved.
Ma'am, that's a very articulate starting point indeed, covering boundaries of time to personalization. We all realized that our mindset changed as well. That sort of impediment that we thought and remote or hybrid learning was, when it became the only option, we all embraced it.
Actually, that's one thing at least I noticed in our kind of organization, which is a manufacturing organization, pan-India presence. So we have people operating in such remote areas, you possibly not heard name of that place also. But I think when everybody was working from home, what happened is there was a lot of focus on individuals and what people are doing. And first time, people also individually, they took a lot of interest. Otherwise, what was happening is HR has arranged a program. Free kaun hai? Okay, you go and sit in that classroom. But when people started taking interest, and based on the kind of courses they chose, we also got a lot of insights in terms of what's most relevant for the business today. That's one part. So good insights on what's most relevant. And the second is, because everybody was working remotely and there was huge need to connect and keep business going even in remote environment, a lot of soft skills focus was also built in. So surprisingly, we saw many people going into and finally doing things which we wanted them to do, like emotional intelligence, influencing, presentation skills, etc. All those courses people started adopting more and more, which are very relevant. But then I think that's the time pause people got to really reflect on what's most relevant, and then luckily it was available.
Ma'am, that's very interesting you mentioned that, because Pushkar, you had also said that soft skills were surprisingly the most sought after courses on your platform as well.
No, absolutely, I can tie to what she just said. There are three things that we as Coursera, where we work with global organizations and India, per se, and around 3,000 of them. I think there are three different things that we saw. One, I think learning moved from as a benefit to actually a necessary thing for someone to kind of upskill or reskill, whether to go into the next level role or kind of transition from one function to the other. So learning became a need and not a benefit. The other thing that we continue to see even now, post-COVID, is that the move from an open catalog kind of a learning to kind of a very role-based specific learning programs and pathways created, so that it eventually then transforms the way a person works or an individual works, and then how does it impact the business, right? Overall. Tying into the third kind of change that we're seeing is, because of the first two, a lot of learning interventions today are taken from a business outcomes perspective, as to say, I'll give you an example. Recently we signed with an IT services company who really want to kind of transform the way they work through Gen AI. So we've kind of helped them design a program on Gen AI training for all of their employees in three areas. One is basic literacy on Gen AI for everyone, so that everyone knows what it is. Then we move on to Gen AI deep skilling for developers within their organization, so that each one of them can think about how can I leverage Gen AI or the latest emerging technologies to kind of do my work differently and impact my business. And then essentially, this was a decision which was a business decision and not a learning decision per se. So I see these three changes, happening, across organizations, that we are at the forefront of, because, we are a part of it. So I would say, softer skills, and just to, kind of give some kind of snippet, learning to learn, emotional intelligence, where, presentation skills, collaboration skills, team management, all of those, were the highest enrolled courses through the pandemic and continue to do so, on our platform.
That's very interesting insight indeed. Jewelry and John, would you like to add to the discussion?
Yeah, I would definitely like to add, so as you mentioned, the journey of learning, if I take a step back, when I started my career, or maybe few years, I always saw learning as something which managers nominated. It was time bound, it was location bound, to a place where we have moved, where training is no more like nomination oriented. Employees take, they have self nomination that they do. That is one. Secondly, it is self paced. You do training when you want, you learn as you go. So that is one thing. And then location is, there is no location, it's totally online. So that is one thing that I have seen. One of the major changes, as Pushkar mentioned, that from a benefit oriented, employees see it as a value addition, as a upskilling that they are doing for themselves. Soft skill has taken a very important place. And the last I would definitely like to add is, we have seen beautiful courses being curated, where organizations as well as Indian institutes are also collaborating with global institutes to come up with courses which add a lot of value to individuals as well as organizations. So that is one thing I would definitely like to highlight, with respect to the journey of learning and development.
Absolutely. And John, how do you view it?
I guess brilliant points brought in by everyone. I'll just take in the point that Pushkar just mentioned in terms of learning to learn. I guess it's a very important concept, primarily because if you look back about 20, 30 years back, the only trainings that used to happen used to be classroom trainings. Sit in a classroom for about 8-10 hours on a XYZ days and attend the training program. It slowly evolved towards, say, webinars, e-learning, video-based content, micro-learning, bite-sized content, to now personalized learning to a great extent. The way I've seen these things generate or primarily operate in the last few years has been, there was a time period wherein we used to give content to the learners for them to learn and absorb. Now it is coming into place the reverse way around, wherein learners are specifically asking for one or two specific niche areas that they want to explore. They might not go and attend an entire training program. They might just go and take that bite size of content that they specifically have a need to, go absorb that and probably move on. So that's how I have seen these things pre-primary changing.
All right, that's a great insight into learning. My next question to everyone is, how can generative AI technologies be effectively utilized to personalize and scale learning experiences for a diverse workforce while maintaining a high level of interactivity and engagement? I would love to start with you, Pushkar.
Sure. And I think, generative AI is, another technology, which we've been hearing in the past. And I think at Coursera, what we believe is technology essentially allows us to, impact with our work at scale, right? So I would say technology for us is equal to how can we scale and, kind of grow, beyond what we are doing today. So the way Coursera is kind of utilizing Gen AI as a tool is in three ways. So one, we have a global business. What we've done very recently is that we've utilized LLM models to kind of translate our content, which is primarily in English, into 7 different languages. So basically Thai, Bahasa, Indonesian, and so on, right? What it does is it helps the learning to be contextual to the person in that particular region. So essentially, even in the Middle East, in Arabic, we now have about 2,000 courses and the other languages. So we are seeing a lot of, kind of adoption because of that, right? And this is something which only technology could help us enable in the last 2 months, essentially. So one, introducing new languages on the platform. Two, learning has always and traditionally been when, it has been done with, partnership with either peers or a mentor, next to you. So, we've kind of thought about, can we add some kind of mentorship on the platform so that while the learner is learning, he does get an opportunity to ask questions to someone and, get the right answer possibly. So we've introduced something called as the AI coach, where, if I'm learning, say, negotiation skills, I can possibly say that, within my work as a first time, business manager, what are the key negotiation skills that I need for my industry? And what our AI coach does today is, it goes through the platform, which has university content from leading business schools in the world and in India. It kind of gives snippets on what the probable right answer would be and what the probable direction would be on business negotiations for a particular industry. So one, introducing a mentor, always available at any point of time with authentic, knowledge and authentic information. The third thing that we are doing is we are building something called as an AI course builder, where you as learning leaders or your teams could actually leverage the AI tool to create your own courses. So for example, you want to create a course on learning to learn, you have some documentation that you already have or some slides or some videos, add those onto the platform, ask for some slides or some content from the Coursera platform. Automatically the course builder will create the custom course, build in assessments as well, so that the learning is foolproof and you actually get outcomes out of it. And essentially, as a learning leader or as a learning team, you can utilize it the way you want. So these are the 3 broad ways that we are trying to use Gen AI and the emerging technologies on our platform.
Though it's just emerging, I think now it's almost become indispensable across industries. As HR leaders, how have you seen AI impact learning so far?
So with the, when Suari said that, when she started her career, if I go back, when I started my career, those days, long back, use of videos, some old videos was a in thing. You use videos, you use some snippets from some films to drive home the point. Then we moved to LMS and now coming to LXP, I think, like today it's possible for you to search first of all on the topic that you want to learn. Also, when you get the training content, you can see every module what it offers. So if you don't want entire negotiation skills, you just want to zoom in on one part of it, you just complete that. At every stage, there are assessments built in so that the learner knows, okay, I have understood, not understood. And another very beautiful thing today is that based on the learner's response, this system can also adjust the speed and recommend the higher or lower level of courses for the next time. So it is so customizable that you have somebody almost like how in schools, old days, we had teachers, they say, class is not getting this, let me go slow. Oh, class has understood this, I can just move fast. So that's what AI can do now, sitting at the back of LXP. I think That's beautiful, because that's more, what can you say, value add for a person. In 1 hour, you will get the best what is required for you.
And that's what we thought the human element brought in, that sort of intuitive personalization, which now AI is offering in a very easy manner to everyone, for sure.
I think the way the greatest advantage that I see here is in terms of the personalization. Repeating what you're saying or adding to that, the personalization it brings to the whole space of learning. And what typically used to happen, we as HR people, we used to decide that okay, this is a learning program that we think our people need. Okay, we really need to see what is it that our people need and what is it that we can also offer. So it has to be a two-way marriage, really, in that sense. That's when I think it becomes more effective. People are ready for absorption and are also ready to adopt for what is offered to them by organizations, and also at what organizations look at from people. Okay, but here you have a technology which is available to you at any point of time. There is a certain element of speed which it offers in terms of what it can offer in terms of creating content, and of course the part of personalization here, right? So I have a very specific need that I am looking at. I can really get it curated to my level at so I am sure my colleagues will agree here, and there's a lot of effort also which is to go in building various programs for various levels of people also, right? So the effort, I think a lot of effort, time has also reduced on what you can build and still be able to give that personalized experience. So I see that as a very good advantage while we use AI.
In fact, I think that is our next question as well. So I'm just going to expand on the question and then we'll come back to this discussion. In what ways can generative AI enhance the effectiveness of learning programs by providing personalized recommendations and adaptive content delivery based on individual employee needs and preferences? How can generative AI technologies facilitate the creation and delivery of personalized and dynamic learning content such as simulations, virtual reality experiences, or gamified learning modules, right? I think VR and especially the gamification of learning is something that has made it a very interactive process apart from the personalization too. Pushkar, would you like to start?
Sure. And we kind of spoke about. I mean, you referred to VR, and this is very kind of preliminary on the platform today. But one of the key skills which we've seen across organizations or even higher ed institutions that we work with is speaking skills or communication skills. It's assumed that everybody knows how to do it, but essentially it's very difficult to kind of execute that learning within a classroom or even outside of it. So we've kind of introduced a introduction to public speaking course, which is in a VR virtual reality mode. So one learner essentially does not go through just videos, but that learner is essentially asked to present in front of an audience. In a virtual reality mode, you could actually choose the audience, whether it's like a panel discussion here, or a conference room full of 10 people, or an audience of about 100 people. And then you could also look at customizing the audience type. So whether they are energetic, whether they are slightly bored, and essentially then deliver your message effectively, right? So the ability for someone to kind of rehearse what they really want to do, or how they want to present, VR and technologies give that opportunity to a learner, which otherwise I would have asked either my wife or my colleague to kind of sit and listen to me and give me feedback, right? Which today you can do with the use of such technologies and make it on your own time and highly personalized. So I would say that is one bit in terms of how VR can be used in the learning process.
This is especially relevant to me, so that's something I'm very excited and I will look into that. But as HR leaders, you are constantly looking at gamifying learning. I'm sure, how do you get more people to be involved? It needs to be more interactive. So in that way, have you found AI offering a better avenue than traditional learning models?
There is one program which we did, which was especially very impactful and became very popular. Everybody wanted it. It was a simulation based program of Think Like a CFO. So typically in a business, you want every business leader to think business and think about the impact it will have on top line, bottom line when you are taking any decision. So that program really is built around, of course, simulation, where you are people who are running a certain business, taking decisions, and you are able to see the impact of your decisions. And at the end of the entire simulation, then you sit back and reflect, I took this decision, it helped, didn't help, this backfired. So in terms of real learnings and taking back certain insights that people can immediately start applying on day to day work, I think that is huge when you use simulations well.
That's a really interesting simulation, ma'am. Think like a CFO. And I
Yeah.
think that way AI really helps you step into those shoes. And I think that is a very interesting aspect.
I guess I'll just add on to that. It's a very good use case that you all picked up. And it's very important that somewhere we don't get fixated with gamification, VR, or AI as a solution to offer and then work backwards, but focus more in terms of what's the problem we are trying to solve from a training standpoint, and then design and see with regards to which one amongst them will primarily work as a part of the system. Otherwise, what would happen is, for example, what 8-10 years back when gamification came in, the first and the only question that used to get asked is, how do you gamify this, how do you gamify this, how do you gamify this? You might not be able to gamify everything out as a part of it, and there might be certain use cases which will work wonderfully well with gamification, and some use cases which will work great with like a simulation, and some probably great with an AI tool. So
All right, that's a great point that you've made. Not everything can be applicable to this.
Yeah, so I would like to definitely add that gamification with respect to orientation. When employee comes, so there's a new concept which came a few years back. It was the snake and ladder. So so if you have the code of conduct. So if you kind of answer the questions right, you basically take the ladder and go up. If you are not following the code of conduct during the quizzes that you will have in the LMS, you will have a snake and you will go down. So those were some of the interesting things which I think gamification did. With respect to artificial intelligence, I think one of the best things which I personally think is that sometimes I think I need it, but if you see my performance appraisal or my overall performance, AI has the kind of data churning they can do, where they can suggest that as per your work that you are doing, these are some of the courses that you need to complete. So I think those are some of the good points which AI brings in. When it comes to Gen AI, which is the new generation which is coming in, I think a few things which will definitely shape up in the coming few months or maybe quarters or year will be content management. I think first is content management. So what individual needs, the content can be customized. That is one. Secondly, is many a times when we get into a course, you have a huge content which you have to go through. So Gen AI has a beauty of concising it for you and giving it to you. That is one, I think. The second one. The third one, which being an IT software company, which will hugely benefit, is basically programming. The way the software engineers program, you can basically guide them for good quality codes. You can guide them for good quality designs, prototypes, wireframes that you create. So I think those are some of the benefits that we will see in the coming quarters or years. And I'm definitely, Pushkar will add value there.
Yeah.
So I think two areas that I see generational AI kind of helping a lot of learners per se, right? Across organizations and institutions as well. So one is the kind of support that one receives while someone is on the learning platform today, right? Can I find the right content? How can I find the right content? So essentially, how can platforms such as us build the algorithm behind the platform for a learner to input something that they really need, and then throw up the right set of results, right? So we've just started a beta on you log in as a learner from an organization. You say I am a business manager. These are my core skills, and they ask a learner to self-assess as well as to where do you think you are in terms of skills, in terms of beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So minute they enter their levels, the course platform starts throwing up content. Then also ask them about how would you like to learn, whether in 5 to 10 minutes, whether in an hour, whether say do a full course with deep skilling in a particular area, right? So these are the kind of beta tests that we are doing on the platform today, and hopefully that will give the learner the comfort that I will get what I want to learn based on my skill levels and based on the outcomes that I want to achieve. The other thing that I said before is, in terms of support on, if I don't understand something on the platform today, there is no way that, a learning leader or a learning team can support individual learners. A learning platform per se and the Gen AI, kind of technologies can help learner, solve out queries, which are sometimes admin related, right? I just can't log into the platform. So, otherwise there used to be a tech support and all of those things which are, conversation based or email based. Now this could be, more chat based. We've all seen that today. The other thing is, a lot of support even on a platform like Amazon, right? A lot of what you buy today, you get similar suggestions, right? So similarly, we have a skill sets program on the platform, which will throw up the content that you really are going through and then tell you, look, you're doing a beginner course in say, quant or data science. Would you want to move to a intermediate course on data science? So automatically, again, supporting the learner in their learning journeys is another aspect which I think Gen AI tools can help.
We already spoke about how employee engagement increases with Gen AI. And staying on that, what impact do you think AI has on, apart from engagement, motivation, retention within a learning context, and how do organizations measure and optimize these factors with the advent of such technologies which are enhancing the learning experience of the employees and building customized learning pathways? What are some of the business metrics that you are tracking to define the success of a learning program?
Let me take a stab at it. I still remember the first time when I had started with some training programs. The first push question that was asked to me is, what is the outcome or what is the ROI that you'll primarily get out of doing this particular training program? And one of the responses that I was primarily given was, if it is not giving you an ROI or if you're not able to substantiate that with a metric, why do it as a part of the question? I guess there are multiple things we started tracking because that got us started in terms of interrogating with regards to what is happening, what are the metrics that we can track, how can we primarily make an impact on the business at large. And a few things that came into place is, we started trying and testing out with regards to what's the current timelines that we primarily take to build, generate and deliver a content. We figured out it is about 3 weeks, all right. So we started looking at what can we do to optimize. Later on, so that was more on the content management side. Later on, from a learning consumption standpoint, we started looking at it more on the lines of what's the timeline for us to deliver content, what is the content completion rate, what is the content start rate versus completion rate, how are people primarily responding to feedback, are there business outcomes which are primarily getting generated, is there a step completion rate, that is you're teaching someone to do an XYZ thing, are they actually going and doing that on the job? So that's something that we kickstarted as a part of the process. We have seen some great outcomes coming into place as a part of it. But yeah, that's a good start for us.
That's why when I read this question also as part of this, I was thinking to myself that today the organizations who are offering these could have a little edge over other companies who are not offering. But I think in couple of years' time, this will become a must for every organization. This soon is going to become a hygiene factor, no more a motivating factor. And when we look at using this technology for employee engagement and retention, then I think we'll have to grow a little beyond just the learning context to looking at how this learning is really helping the employee relate to the overall organization and use what he or she is learning for his or her career betterment or better roles or job movements and things like that. So I think it's a very deep question. Many ways one can use it. But I think in times to come, it is going to become a hygiene factor. Every company will have to have it because every employee would say, oh, I am trying to do this, and it's going to become a habit. Quickly go and check, okay, this is where I'm stuck, how do I do this? Like how we all got used to Google. Exactly same thing is going to happen. Everybody is going to go to LXP and say, okay, this is where I'm stuck. So we need that. So it will become an essential, but to use it for engagement and retention, we'll have to tie it in with overall organization framework.
To what you're saying, very interesting actually. If you look at engagement as an overall concept itself, and employee motivation, engagement, and tying it to retention, so there are multiple factors that become a part of retaining an employee in an organization. And learning, I think, is a very, very important facet there, where it can be a great step or a great process to get an employee engaged within an organization. And if you're able to give those opportunities to people, that you have opportunity to grow, you have career growth here, and there is a certain level that you can achieve in this organization, invariably retention would happen to a certain extent. And if it is aided by some of these AI related technologies, which say for example, my intelligence is there with the organization, that Ranjana is looking at something like this and looks at growing in the organization this way, and this is how learning can support her. If I am able to provide those kind of opportunities to a Ranjana, or for that matter anyone, invariably engagement happens, retention happens, and of course then you do have the related business outcomes that you're expecting out of this whole engagement process itself. So I think learning can really supplement an overall engagement process for an organization as well as for an employee. And AI can really accelerate this process through the intelligence that it can offer to the organization, to HR leaders like us, who are really struggling to find out what is it that every employee wants. Here each HR is talking to each employee, finding out bhai kya chahiye, what will make you stay, what can we do to retain. But I think this intelligence, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, we do this predictive analysis. When we do our attrition analysis, we try to predict who are the set of people who will leave, why will they leave, what can I do to make them stay. But well, this can probably give you, a lot of background intelligence, which can be built in various systems. It can be built in your appraisal systems, it can be built in your learning systems, it can be built in your HR processes, which I think eventually will help for an entire ecosystem in an organization to be able to retain, motivate, engage people. So
Very beautifully in the talent management process.
absolutely,
Where you look at for identification of potential, and also to identify potential candidates for a particular role, you look at what is the background and how much person has invested for moving in that direction.
I'd like to definitely, beautiful points taken, everybody. We are at a beautiful juncture, where we have various generations of employees working with us. You have the baby boomers who are there. In their generation, learning was again, the classroom, the time bound. So you have those employees in your organization, and then you have the Gen Zs. For them, learning is a continuous process. Feedback is a continuous process. If you see some of the motivators, some of the key points which enables them to stick to any organization is definitely learning and development. How they can grow vertically, and also how they can grow laterally. So these two play a very important role. So learning and development and artificial intelligence can definitely come of great help, because they give us analysis and customized course content for individual. If somebody wants to grow up, they can take those courses. If somebody wants to move from a software engineer to a business analyst, they can have the lateral growth, where they can take courses on business, strategic management courses, and then they can grow. So overall, I think that is how AI plays a very important role in motivating various generation of employees working with us in the organization.
Those are some lovely, varied perspectives that we've had here. I would love for Pushkar to have the last word on this.
And I think a lot of great things have
sure,
been.
I would also like you to throw light on what more Coursera does in terms of role-based learnings, because we as an organization are looking at moving completely role-based, so that we can give people path on the roles and learn through the roles. And how can AI and roles really work together in some way.
Absolutely, and I'll take two examples before I explain how do we do role-based learning. I referred to this before. We have something called as skill sets. So these are essentially 300 job roles that we have curated on the platform today, and we're saying that someone who's a data analyst needs 5 skills, and these 5 skills have come from the learning that has happened on the platform today. Whether it's a consumer learner, whether it's a corporate learner, and basis the reports and the skills reports that we go through, right? So we've created this 5-6 skills for a data analyst role. For someone to move from data analyst to data scientist, these are the kind of transitions that are required, and we are able to kind of match those skills to a data scientist role as well, and show what's the growth path, right, from your basic skill to an intermediate to an advanced level. And we do this for all 300 roles, and at an organizational level, we are able to also help you customize it. So if you say that, at my company, for a data analyst, these two skills are not important, but communication is more important. Whatever, presentation skills are more important. We are able to add that and make it a more role-based or a function-based learning program. The last two examples that I will take is, one is a finance company that we work with, based out of Pune. So we've had an employee there, and the training just started about 3 months ago. We've had a sales employee, who started in that company as a sales manager, has moved from sales to a data analytics role internally with the learning that he or she, went onto the platform at Coursera. So that's where the learning leader of the organization said, that's great impact. I mean, I can just show this use case to so many of my employees here and say, look, internal mobility is now completely possible, even if you don't have the basic knowledge of a different function, right? You can do this on your own, and we can help you support your transition. The other example I would take is, and this is a case study that we've already published, is PwC. As an organization is undergoing a digital transformation in the way they want to do business tomorrow. So the way they want to come across to their clients, the way they want to solve their problems, they want to use a lot of digital and data, in their own work. So 13,000 of PwC's employees are undergoing, training on the Coursera platform. And what they've also created is an asset called as, or a kind of a segment called as Digital Innovation Labs, where each of those employees who are learning on the platform are creating assets for their particular roles and their particular businesses, to just show that, if I use technology, my effort, time, and investment to do this is, say, X hours. With technology, it will move down by, so many X hours, right? So those are the kind of assets they have created, and today there are about 600 of those innovations within the company, done by the employees, which are available for everybody to use within PwC as an organization. So I think that's essentially a great, kind of engagement, right? That I am a part of the larger goal of the organization. I'm able to contribute to the future of the organization. So, I would say technology training and kind of leadership, right? Essentially can, tie business outcomes together and make this a very exciting thing for, learners in a company.
Absolutely. It's so wonderful to see the passion that all of you have about education and about people learning. And I think that is definitely a boost of confidence to employees like me and everyone else that's watching as well. And I would love to thank you for all the insights that you've provided us today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.